The year 1965 marked a time of bold experimentation in American car design. Manufacturers aimed to blend style, performance, and luxury to captivate a booming post-war consumer market. While many vehicles of this era became iconic, some were burdened by awkward proportions, poor aerodynamics, or uninspired aesthetics. The following 10 cars from 1965 demonstrate how ambitious designs can sometimes miss the mark, leaving behind body styles that disappointed buyers and critics alike.
Dear viewer, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support.
Number 10, 1965 Chevrolet Corvair, a car that exemplifies both bold experimentation and costly missteps in automotive design. While it was envisioned as a groundbreaking entry into the compact car market, the Corvair's unconventional engineering and controversial safety issues ultimately overshadowed its potential. Let's start with the concept behind the Corvair. By the early 1960s, compact cars were becoming increasingly popular in the United States, driven by rising competition from European imports like Volkswagen. Chevrolet wanted to create a car that would stand out in this emerging market, and their solution was the Corvair, a car with a rear-mounted, air-cooled engine and rear-wheel drive. This layout was highly unconventional for an American car at the time. Engineers aimed for a design that was lightweight, efficient, and innovative. The Corvair stood out with its smooth body lines, unibody construction, and minimalist design. However, bold ideas often come with significant challenges, and in the case of the Corvair, these challenges proved difficult to overcome. While the Corvair's design was sleek for the early 1960s, by 1965, it was beginning to show its flaws. The second-generation model featured cleaner lines and a more streamlined appearance than its predecessor, but it still suffered from awkward proportions, particularly in the rear. The rear overhang, a consequence of the rear engine layout, created visual imbalance. Combined with the slab-sided body, the car lacked the graceful or sporty aesthetic of competitors like the Ford Mustang or Plymouth Barracuda. This was especially noticeable in the coupe and sedan models, which seemed functional but uninspired. While the Corvair's compact proportions were intended to evoke European sensibilities, the result was a design that many buyers found neither modern nor attractive. The Corvair's rear-mounted engine was intended to provide better traction and a spacious cabin, but the engineering trade-offs led to significant issues. The flat-six engine, while innovative and compact, placed most of the car's weight over the rear axle. This created poor weight distribution, with approximately 60% of the car's mass at the back and only 40% at the front. This imbalance affected handling and stability, particularly in emergency situations. Without proper weight up front, the Corvair was prone to oversteer, meaning the rear end could swing out unexpectedly in sharp turns. This was further exacerbated by Chevrolet's decision to omit a front stabilizer bar in the early models, a cost-cutting measure that severely compromised handling. By 1965, Chevrolet had addressed some of these issues with the addition of an independent rear suspension system, improving stability and drivability. However, by this point, the damage to the Corvair's reputation was already done. No discussion of the Corvair would be complete without addressing its infamous safety controversy. In 1965, Ralph Nader published Unsafe at Any Speed, a book that heavily criticized the Corvair, particularly the early models, for their dangerous handling characteristics. Nader argued that Chevrolet had prioritized cost savings over consumer safety, leading to design flaws that put drivers at risk. The Corvair's rear engine layout, combined with the lack of standard safety features like anti-roll bars or seat belts, made it more prone to rollovers and spinouts during sudden maneuvers. While later studies suggested that the Corvair's safety record was comparable to that of other cars from the same era, Nader's book had a profound impact on public perception. The Corvair became a symbol of corporate negligence, and its sales plummeted. For many buyers, the car's innovative design no longer seemed worth the risk. Beyond its safety issues, the Corvair struggled to deliver competitive performance. Its flat-six engine was underpowered compared to the V8s offered by rivals like the Ford Mustang. While the Corvair aimed to be economical, it wasn't significantly more fuel-efficient than other compact cars, leaving it without a clear advantage. The car's lightweight construction, intended to complement the rear engine design, contributed to a somewhat flimsy feel. Combined with a noisy cabin and limited interior space, the Corvair failed to appeal as a practical, everyday car for American families. The Corvair's struggles were magnified by the success of its competitors. By 1965, the Ford Mustang had redefined the compact car market with its sporty design and powerful engine options. The Plymouth Barracuda and Dodge Dart also offered more traditional layouts and styling, which resonated with American buyers. In contrast, the Corvair's unconventional engineering and polarizing design left it in an awkward position. It wasn't sporty enough to compete with the Mustang, nor was it practical enough to dominate the compact market. 1965 Chevrolet Corvair is a car defined by contradictions. It was innovative but flawed, sleek but awkward. Number 9, 1965 AMC Ambassador, a car that represents an ambitious yet flawed attempt by American Motors Corporation, AMC, to compete in the highly competitive full-size car market of the mid-1960s. While the Ambassador had some redeeming qualities, its oversized, awkward design and ill-conceived styling choices ultimately left it struggling to stand out. To understand the 1965 Ambassador, we need to consider its context. AMC was a smaller automaker operating in the shadows of giants like General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler. Known for producing economical, practical vehicles, AMC wanted to broaden its appeal by offering a full-size car that could compete with the Chevrolet Impala, Ford Galaxy, and Plymouth Fury. The Ambassador was their flagship model, intended to showcase AMC's ability to combine luxury and practicality. However, in their attempt to go toe-to-toe with the big players, AMC overreached, delivering a car that felt mismatched in both design and execution. At first glance, the 1965 Ambassador's design looks like it's trying too hard to be something it isn't. The car featured a large, bulky body that lacked the clean, cohesive lines seen on its competitors. The proportions were awkward, with a long hood and a rear end that felt disconnected from the rest of the design. One of the most criticized elements was the inclusion of rear fender skirts. While fender skirts were a popular styling choice in the late 1950s and early 1960s, by 1965, they were falling out of favor. On the Ambassador, they looked particularly out of place, emphasizing the car's clumsiness rather than enhancing its elegance. The slab-sided body panels and flat roofline contributed to the Ambassador's boxy appearance, which lacked the sophistication buyers expected in a full-size car. AMC seemed to be aiming for a luxurious look, but the execution came off as dated and uninspired, especially when compared to the sleeker, more dynamic designs offered by Ford and GM. Inside, the Ambassador offered the spaciousness you'd expect from a full-size car, but it failed to deliver the luxury experience it promised. The materials and finishes were adequate, but not exceptional, which made it difficult for the Ambassador to justify its higher price point compared to AMC's smaller, more economical models. Buyers who stepped into an Ambassador expecting a premium feel were likely disappointed. The dashboard design was utilitarian rather than elegant, and the seating, while comfortable, lacked the plushness found in rival models. This lack of refinement made it hard for the Ambassador to compete with luxury-oriented full-size cars like the Buick LeSabre or Oldsmobile 88. The 1965 Ambassador was available with a range of engine options, including a 232 cubic inch inline-six and a 287 cubic inch V8 8. While the V8 offered respectable power, the Ambassador's bulky body and uninspired handling made it less enjoyable to drive than competitors. The car felt heavy and sluggish on the road, a problem exacerbated by AMC's focus on fuel efficiency over performance. In a market where buyers expected full-size cars to offer smooth, powerful driving dynamics, the Ambassador fell short. The Ambassador's flaws were magnified by the fierce competition in the full-size market. Cars like the Chevrolet Impala, Ford Galaxy, and Pontiac Catalina offered better styling, more powerful engines, and superior handling at similar price points. Even Chrysler's full-size offerings, often criticized for being too large, felt more cohesive and appealing than AMC's Ambassador. AMC's limited resources also meant that the Ambassador lacked the extensive advertising and dealership support that its competitors enjoyed. As a result, the car struggled to gain traction in a segment dominated by more established and polished models. What's most frustrating about the 1965 AMC Ambassador is the missed potential. AMC had a reputation for innovation and practicality, as seen in earlier models like the Rambler American and the Nash Metropolitan. If the company had played to its strengths, focusing on smart, efficient design rather than trying to imitate larger automakers, it might have delivered a car that stood out for the right reasons. Instead, the Ambassador felt like a compromise, attempting to be something it wasn't and failing to deliver a compelling reason for buyers to choose it over the competition. In summary, the 1965 AMC Ambassador was a well-intentioned but poorly executed attempt to compete in the full-size car market. Its bulky design, out-of-place fender skirts, and uninspired interior left it struggling to make an impression in a crowded field. While it's not without its merits, the Ambassador ultimately failed to deliver the style, performance, or luxury that buyers expected from a full-size car. Number 8, 1965 Ford Falcon Wagon, a car that illustrates the challenge of keeping a once popular design relevant in a rapidly evolving automotive market. While the Falcon Wagon was a practical and economical choice for families, its styling in 1965 fell short of expectations. Let's dive into the design, the context, and why the Falcon Wagon ultimately felt more like a relic of the past than a bold step into the future. The Ford Falcon was introduced in 1960 as one of the first compact cars from an American automaker. It was designed to meet the needs of a growing segment of buyers who wanted fuel-efficient, practical vehicles in an era dominated by big gas-guzzling sedans. The Falcon was initially a success, with its simple and straightforward design appealing to budget-conscious buyers. By 1965, however, the market had shifted. Competitors like the Chevrolet Corvair, Rambler American, and even Ford's own Mustang were pushing the boundaries of compact car design, offering more style and sophistication. The Falcon Wagon, unfortunately, failed to keep pace with this evolution. One of the most glaring issues with the 1965 Ford Falcon Wagon was its outdated design. By this point, car buyers were beginning to favor sleeker, more streamlined vehicles with modern curves and contemporary styling. The Falcon Wagon, however, retained a boxy, squared-off aesthetic that looked more at home in the late 1950s than in the mid-1960s. The front grille, in particular, was uninspired. Its simple horizontal bars lacked the flair and personality seen in competing wagons, such as the Chevrolet Chevelle wagon or the Plymouth Valiant wagon. The grille design gave the Falcon a utilitarian appearance, which might have been acceptable in 1960 but felt out of step with the more sophisticated tastes of 1965. The overall proportions of the wagon were also problematic. Its upright stance and slab-sided body made it look like a basic, no-frills workhorse rather than a stylish family car. The roofline, while practical for cargo space, added to the boxy and utilitarian feel, making the Falcon Wagon seem more suited for hauling supplies than making a statement in suburban driveways. Now, let's be fair. The Falcon Wagon wasn't a total failure. It offered the kind of practicality that families needed, with a spacious interior and ample cargo room. Its compact size made it easier to maneuver and park than larger station wagons, and its relatively simple mechanical design meant it was affordable to buy and maintain. However, practicality alone wasn't enough in a market where style increasingly mattered. By 1965, even budget-conscious buyers were looking for cars that blended functionality with visual appeal. The Falcon Wagon's design, which seemed like an afterthought compared to the competition, couldn't deliver that balance. Under the hood, the 1965 Falcon Wagon offered a range of engines, starting with a 170 cubic inch inline-six that produced a modest 105 horsepower. For those wanting a bit more power, Ford also offered a 200 cubic inch inline-six and a 289 cubic inch V8. While the performance was adequate for a compact wagon, it wasn't particularly impressive. The base engine struggled to move the car with any sense of urgency, especially when fully loaded with passengers or cargo. Even the V8 option, while an improvement, couldn't completely mask the wagon's overall lack of excitement. In terms of handling, the Falcon Wagon was unremarkable. Its basic suspension setup prioritized comfort over agility, making it easy to drive but hardly engaging. For buyers who cared about driving dynamics, the Falcon wagon felt like a compromise. The 1965 Falcon wagon faced stiff competition, not only from other compact wagons, but also from the broader station wagon market. Models like the Chevrolet Chevelle wagon and Rambler Classic wagon offered similar practicality, but with more modern, appealing designs. Even within Ford's lineup, the new Mustang overshadowed the Falcon, drawing attention and resources away from the aging compact. Sales of the Falcon wagon reflected its fading relevance. While it still appealed to buyers looking for a basic, economical family car, it struggled to attract younger or more style-conscious customers. Ford had an opportunity to modernize the Falcon wagon in 1965, but instead, they played it safe. A bolder redesign could have revitalized the Falcon's image and helped it stay competitive in a changing market. For instance, borrowing styling cues from the Mustang or the larger Ford Galaxy might have given the Falcon wagon a more contemporary look. Instead, Ford seemed content to recycle an outdated design, hoping that the wagon's practicality would be enough to sustain its appeal. In summary, the 1965 Ford Falcon wagon was a practical and economical vehicle that unfortunately failed to adapt to the changing automotive landscape. Number 7, 1965 Dodge Custom 880. A car that represents what happens when an automaker tries to quickly fill a gap in its lineup without the benefit of thoughtful design or innovation. While it served as Dodge's placeholder in the full-size market, the Custom 880 fell short of expectations due to its uninspired styling and lack of a cohesive identity. The Custom 880 came into existence as a reaction to a strategic misstep. In 1962, Dodge downsized its full-size models, leaving a gap in the lineup that competitors like Chevrolet, Ford, and even Dodge's sibling brand Plymouth quickly exploited. Dodge hastily introduced the Custom 880 to fill that void. By 1965, the Custom 880 was still struggling to establish itself as a competitive full-size offering. Rather than a thoughtfully designed flagship, it felt more like a patchwork solution. Dodge's attempt to cobble together a car from existing components resulted in a vehicle that lacked distinction and failed to resonate with buyers. One of the most glaring issues with the 1965 Dodge Custom 880 was its design. Let's start with the heavy use of chrome. While chrome was still a popular design element in the mid-1960s, the Custom 880 went overboard. The front grille and bumper were overloaded with large, uninspired chrome slabs that gave the car a bloated, garish appearance. Instead of conveying elegance or modernity, the chrome-heavy look made the car feel dated. The roofline was another sore spot. The awkward, semi-fastback shape failed to blend harmoniously with the rest of the car's proportions. It looked tacked on rather than integrated, which diminished the car's overall aesthetic appeal. Then there were the tail fins, an unfortunate nod to an era that had already passed. By 1965, tail fins were largely out of fashion, with most automakers embracing cleaner, more modern designs. The Custom 880's fins felt like an afterthought, awkwardly placed and poorly executed. They lacked the boldness of late 1950s designs, and instead came across as a half-hearted attempt to inject some flair into an otherwise bland rear end. A significant part of the Custom 880's identity crisis stemmed from its reliance on Plymouth underpinnings. Essentially, the Custom 880 was built on a Plymouth platform with Dodge-specific tweaks, but those tweaks often worked against it. Rather than giving the Custom 880 a unique personality, Dodge borrowed heavily from Plymouth's designs, resulting in a car that felt like a diluted version of its sibling. For example, the Plymouth Fury of the same era featured a more cohesive and modern design language, making the Custom 880 seem like a lesser alternative in comparison. Buyers who might have considered the Custom 880 often found themselves drawn to the Plymouth Fury instead, which offered similar functionality, but with better styling and a stronger brand identity. Under the hood, the 1965 Dodge Custom 880 offered a range of engines, from the base 225 cubic inch slant 6 to larger V8 options, like the 383 cubic inch and 413 cubic inch engines. While the V8s provided adequate power for a full-size car, the Custom 880's heavy curb weight meant that performance was merely adequate, not exciting. The driving dynamics were similarly unremarkable. The car's size and weight made it cumbersome to handle, and the suspension tuning prioritized comfort over agility. For buyers looking for a smooth, uneventful ride, the Custom 880 might have sufficed, but it offered little in the way of driving excitement or refinement. The full-size car market in 1965 was highly competitive, with standout models like the Chevrolet Impala, Ford Galaxy, and even Dodge's own Polara stealing the spotlight. Compared to these rivals, the Custom 880 lacked the styling, innovation, or marketing power to stand out. Sales of the Custom 880 reflected its lukewarm reception. While it did manage to attract some buyers, it was clear that Dodge's rushed approach had resulted in a car that couldn't compete effectively. Its bland design and lack of a strong identity left it overshadowed by more compelling options. The 1965 Dodge Custom 880 highlights the importance of thoughtful design and brand differentiation. Rushing a product to market without a clear vision or identity can lead to a car that feels like an afterthought. Automakers need to invest in creating vehicles that not only meet functional needs, but also resonate emotionally with buyers. The Custom 880 also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of overusing outdated design elements. By clinging to tail fins and excessive chrome, Dodge failed to keep the Custom 880 in step with contemporary design trends, further alienating potential buyers. In conclusion, the 1965 Dodge Custom 880 was a missed opportunity. While it filled a necessary gap in Dodge's lineup, it did so without the style, innovation, or excitement needed to truly compete in the full-size market. Number 6, 1965 Mercury Comet Caliente, a car that sought to balance luxury and sportiness, but ultimately failed to deliver on either front. While the Comet nameplate had gained recognition as a smaller, more approachable model in the Mercury lineup, the 1965 Caliente trim aimed to add a sense of flair and sophistication. However, its design choices, particularly its boxy shape, massive rear pillars, and awkward proportions, left much to be desired. The Mercury Comet Caliente was introduced as a premium trim level within the Comet lineup, which sat just below the Ford Fairlane in size. By 1965, Mercury wanted to position the Comet as a compact option that could appeal to a range of buyers, including those looking for sportiness, luxury, or practicality. The Caliente name itself, meaning hot in Spanish, was meant to evoke excitement and energy. Mercury marketed the car as a stylish, upscale alternative to the more utilitarian-based Comet models. However, while the intent was clear, the execution missed the mark. One of the most glaring issues with the 1965 Mercury Comet Caliente was its design. Let's break it down. First, the overall body shape was far too boxy for a car that was supposed to convey sportiness. The angular lines and flat surfaces lacked the flowing curves and dynamic proportions seen on competitors like the Ford Mustang or even the Dodge Dart GT. Instead of feeling sleek and athletic, the Comet Caliente felt static and heavy. A particularly egregious design choice was the massive rear pillars and tiny rear window. These oversized C-pillars disrupted the car's proportions, giving it an unbalanced appearance. The large pillars made the rear of the car look bulky and contributed to poor visibility for drivers, a practical drawback that further undermined its appeal. The small rear window, squeezed between those massive pillars, only accentuated the problem. Not only did it look out of place, but it also failed to give the car the open, airy feel that buyers might have expected in a semi-luxury model. The result was a design that felt claustrophobic and clumsy. The Caliente trim tried to position itself as a sporty option within the Comet lineup, but the design didn't support this ambition. The front end featured a somewhat aggressive grille and subtle chrome accents, but these touches were overshadowed by the car's upright stance and heavy proportions. The squared-off body lacked the agility and refinement that buyers associated with sportiness. Mercury also added small touches like badging and trim elements to emphasize the Caliente's supposed upscale nature. But these details couldn't overcome the underlying design flaws. The car simply didn't have the visual drama or excitement needed to live up to its name. Under the hood, the Comet Caliente offered a range of engine options, including the base inline-six and optional V8s. While the V8s provided respectable performance, they couldn't fully compensate for the car's uninspired design. Buyers could opt for engines like the 289 cubic inch V8, which delivered solid acceleration, but the Caliente was still held back by its weight and boxy aerodynamics. On the road, the car was competent, but not thrilling. Decent for commuting or cruising, but lacking the excitement expected from a car marketed as both sporty and luxurious. The 1965 Mercury Comet Caliente entered a competitive segment, facing rivals like the Ford Mustang, Chevrolet Corvair Monza, and Dodge Dart GT. Unfortunately, the Caliente didn't stand out in this crowded field. Its boxy design and unbalanced proportions made it less visually appealing than its competitors, while its performance was adequate but unremarkable. Buyers looking for sportiness gravitated toward more exciting options like the Mustang, while those seeking luxury found better choices in larger Mercury or Lincoln models. The Caliente's attempt to be a jack-of-all-trades left it feeling like a master of none. The 1965 Mercury Comet Caliente serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of trying to combine too many design goals into a single vehicle. By attempting to blend luxury and sportiness, Mercury ended up with a car that didn't excel in either category. The design choices, particularly the massive rear pillars and boxy body, highlight the importance of proportion and cohesion in automotive styling. A car's visual appeal depends on how well its elements work together, and the Caliente's clunky execution undermined its ambitions. From a broader perspective, the Caliente reminds us that great cars need more than a strong name or marketing campaign. They need a design and performance package that lives up to their promises. In conclusion, the 1965 Mercury Comet Caliente was a well-intentioned but ultimately flawed attempt to create a sporty, luxurious compact car. Its boxy design, awkward proportions, and underwhelming performance failed to capture the excitement or elegance that buyers expected. Number 5, 1965 Buick Wildcat Sedan. While the Wildcat Coupe had a measure of sporty appeal, the sedan version fell short of its ambitions. Its heavy, slab-sided design, coupled with a roofline that lacked finesse, turned what could have been a standout into a bloated and uninspired luxury sedan. The Buick Wildcat originated as a sporty offshoot of the LeSabre, introduced to inject a sense of performance into Buick's traditionally conservative lineup. By 1965, the Wildcat had evolved into a standalone series, offering both coupe and sedan configurations. Buick marketed the Wildcat as a blend of power and luxury, a car for those who wanted refinement without sacrificing excitement. This positioning worked relatively well for the coupe, with its sleeker lines and two-door layout reinforcing its sporty aspirations. However, the sedan version failed to carry the same energy, falling victim to design choices that emphasized bulk over beauty. The most glaring issue with the 1965 Buick Wildcat sedan was its overall aesthetic. Let's break it down. First, the car's sides were plain and uninspired. The slab-sided design featured minimal sculpting, with large flat panels stretching from front to rear. This lack of detail made the car feel heavy and monotonous, failing to capture the elegance or dynamism expected in a luxury sedan. The roofline was another major problem. The sedan's roof was tall and heavy-looking, with thick pillars that disrupted the car's proportions. Instead of flowing gracefully into the rear of the car, the roofline seemed to sit awkwardly atop the body, giving the Wildcat sedan an ungainly appearance. Unlike the coupe, which benefited from a sportier profile, the sedan looked bulky and utilitarian, a stark contrast to the sleek, performance-oriented image Buick tried to cultivate with the Wildcat name. The Wildcat sedan also struggled with its identity. Buick intended the Wildcat to be a luxurious yet exciting alternative to more traditional full-size sedans. However, the sedan's design leaned too far into the realm of traditional luxury, lacking the visual cues that signaled sportiness. The overuse of chrome, particularly on the grille and trim, added to the car's bloated appearance. While chrome accents were common in the 1960s, the Wildcat's application felt excessive, detracting from its overall aesthetic. Instead of feeling refined or sporty, the sedan looked dated and cumbersome. This was particularly disappointing because the sedan lacked the design features that gave the coupe its appeal. Where the coupe's two-door layout and sweeping roofline conveyed a sense of motion, the sedan's boxy proportions made it look static and uninspired. Under the hood, the 1965 Buick Wildcat sedan offered strong engine options, including the standard 401 cubic inch nailhead V8, producing 325 horsepower. For those seeking even more power, Buick offered a 425 cubic inch V8, which delivered up to 360 horsepower in the Super Wildcat configuration. While these engines provided impressive acceleration and highway cruising capabilities, they couldn't fully compensate for the sedan's visual shortcomings. Buyers might have appreciated the Wildcat's power, but the car's uninspiring design didn't reflect the performance lurking beneath the hood. The 1965 Buick Wildcat sedan entered a competitive market filled with other full-size luxury options, such as the Oldsmobile 98 and Pontiac Bonneville. Unfortunately, the Wildcat sedan failed to stand out in this crowded field. Its slab-sided design and heavy proportions made it less visually appealing than its rivals, while its lack of innovation in styling left it feeling dated. Buyers looking for luxury gravitated toward more elegant options like the Cadillac DeVille, while those seeking performance found better choices in sportier sedans and coupes. As a result, the Wildcat sedan struggled to define its niche, appealing neither to those seeking refinement nor to those craving excitement. The 1965 Buick Wildcat sedan serves as a reminder that design coherence is critical to a car's success. A vehicle's styling should reflect its intended purpose and identity, but the Wildcat sedan's design failed to capture the performance-luxury balance Buick aimed for. The slab-sided body and heavy roofline undermined the car's aspirations, turning what could have been a standout into a forgettable entry in the full-size market. Even strong performance and a luxurious interior couldn't overcome the sedan's visual shortcomings. This example highlights the importance of proportion, detail, and innovation in automotive design. A car's aesthetics are often the first impression buyers receive, and if the design doesn't resonate, even the best features may go unnoticed. In conclusion, the 1965 Buick Wildcat sedan was a missed opportunity. While it had the potential to combine luxury and performance, its uninspired design and awkward proportions held it back. Number 4, 1965 Cadillac Series 75 Limousine. A vehicle that sought to epitomize luxury and grandeur, but ended up as a bloated, visually awkward car. While Cadillac was renowned for its elegance and sophistication during this era, the Series 75 limousine stretched those qualities to a point where the design lost its balance and appeal. The Cadillac Series 75 was positioned as the flagship model in Cadillac's lineup. Its limousine variant was designed for heads of state, business magnates, and the elite, a rolling statement of status and success. As a limousine, it was larger, longer, and more opulent than any other Cadillac model of the time. Under the hood, the Series 75 limousine was equipped with Cadillac's 429 cubic inch V8 engine, producing 340 horsepower, ensuring it could move its massive frame with relative ease. The interior was filled with premium materials like leather and walnut accents, offering the luxurious ride expected from Cadillac. On paper, the Series 75 limousine delivered what one would expect in terms of size, power, and prestige. However, its design left much to be desired. The 1965 Series 75 limousine's most glaring issue was its stretched proportions. Cadillac extended the wheelbase to a staggering 149.8 inches to accommodate additional seating and rear cabin space. While functionality required such dimensions, the design didn't effectively disguise the car's sheer bulk. The result was a limousine with a massive rear overhang that threw off the visual balance of the vehicle. The rear portion seemed to drag behind the rest of the car, making the limousine look awkward and ungainly. Instead of appearing elegant, the stretched design felt overdone, as though Cadillac had prioritized size over style. The excessive length also accentuated the flat, slab-sided body panels, which were minimally adorned but didn't provide the sculptural sophistication one might expect from a luxury car. The design lacked the finesse to carry such dimensions gracefully. Another significant issue was Cadillac's over-reliance on chrome trim to convey luxury. While chrome was a staple of American car design in the 1960s, the Series 75 limousine took it to excess. The grille, bumpers, and side trim were drenched in chrome, and while this was intended to highlight the car's premium status, it came across as ostentatious rather than refined. Combined with the car's massive size, the abundance of chrome only amplified its bloated appearance. Instead of exuding the restrained elegance that Cadillac was known for, the Series 75 limousine looked overly flashy, out of step with the growing preference for cleaner, more modern designs emerging in the 1960s. By 1965, automotive design was transitioning away from the excessive ornamentation of the 1950s toward more streamlined, modern aesthetics. Manufacturers like Lincoln were already offering limousines with sleeker, more contemporary styling, making the Series 75 limousine feel outdated in comparison. The flat roofline, boxy shape, and vertical taillights hark back to an earlier era. While such styling may have worked for Cadillac's smaller models, the limousine's stretched proportions made these design choices feel clunky and dated. The car appeared more like a relic of the past than a forward-thinking luxury vehicle. To its credit, the Series 75 limousine succeeded in its primary function, offering space and comfort for up to 9 passengers. It was equipped with features like a divider window for privacy, jump seats for additional passengers, and climate control to enhance the riding experience. However, this focus on practicality came at the expense of aesthetics. The Series 75 limousine looked more like a utilitarian vehicle for ferrying large groups than an exclusive luxury car. This was particularly problematic for Cadillac, as the brand's reputation hinged on its ability to combine practicality with elegance. The Series 75 limousine was never a high-volume model, but it played an important role in Cadillac's lineup as a symbol of prestige. However, its exaggerated proportions and outdated styling limited its appeal. While it may have appealed to institutions and organizations needing a functional limousine, individual buyers seeking elegance and exclusivity were likely drawn to competitors like the Lincoln Continental Executive Limousine. Cadillac's inability to modernize the Series 75 limousine's design left it lagging behind in a segment where image was everything. The 1965 Cadillac Series 75 limousine offers a cautionary tale about the risks of prioritizing function over form in a luxury vehicle. While the car delivered on space, comfort, and power, its design failed to meet the expectations of Cadillac's discerning clientele. Number 3, 1965 Chevrolet Chevy 2 Nova sedan, a vehicle that found a niche as a functional, budget-friendly compact car, but failed to capture the imagination of style-conscious buyers. Chevrolet positioned the Chevy 2 Nova as a practical alternative in the growing compact car market, but in doing so, they delivered a sedan whose uninspired, boxy design lacked any real personality. First, we must consider what the Chevy 2 Nova was intended to be. It was Chevrolet's response to the rising popularity of smaller, more economical cars during the 1960s, a market shift prompted by the success of competitors like the Ford Falcon. The Nova's focus was on utility, reliability, and affordability. It offered seating for 5, decent cargo space, and straightforward engineering, which made it an appealing choice for budget-conscious families. It was available with a range of engines, from a modest inline-4 to a more potent V8, giving buyers flexibility depending on their priorities. But with this emphasis on functionality came sacrifices in style. The Chevy 2 Nova sedan was a car designed to do a job, not to make a statement. One of the most significant issues with the 1965 Chevy 2 Nova sedan was its uninspired, boxy shape. The flat body panels and lack of contouring gave the car a utilitarian appearance, making it look more like a tool for transportation than an expression of design. While this simplicity may have appealed to buyers seeking practicality, it left the Nova struggling to stand out in a market increasingly dominated by cars with sleek, modern styling. Competitors like the Plymouth Valiant and Dodge Dart managed to combine functionality with more dynamic, engaging designs. Chevrolet, on the other hand, played it safe with the Nova's styling, and in doing so, missed an opportunity to elevate the car's visual appeal. Another design element that worked against the Chevy 2 Nova sedan was its oversized greenhouse, the area of the car occupied by windows. While large windows can be a practical choice, providing excellent visibility and creating an open, airy cabin, they also have the potential to throw off a car's proportions. In the case of the Nova sedan, the large greenhouse dominated the car's design, making the body below appear small and unbalanced. The tall roofline and large windows gave the car a somewhat top-heavy look, which, when paired with the flat, featureless sides, made the overall design feel clunky and awkward. Instead of appearing compact and nimble, the Nova looked more like a scaled-down utility vehicle, practical, but not particularly stylish. Perhaps the most damning aspect of the 1965 Chevy 2 Nova sedan's design was its complete lack of character. The car had no standout features, no design elements that made it memorable or appealing. The grille was simple and functional, the taillights were unremarkable, and the trim was minimal. While these choices may have kept costs down, they also ensured that the Nova would fade into the background in a sea of more distinctive vehicles. In an era when automotive design was becoming increasingly bold and experimental, the Nova's plainness made it feel like a relic from an earlier time. The Chevy 2 Nova sedan's lackluster design wasn't just a disappointment aesthetically, it was also a missed opportunity for Chevrolet. With the right styling, the Nova could have been a true competitor in the compact car market, combining practicality with visual appeal to attract a broader range of buyers. Instead, Chevrolet's conservative approach relegated the Nova to the role of a workhorse, a car people bought because they needed it, not because they wanted it. While this may have been enough to drive sales, it left the Nova without the kind of legacy enjoyed by more innovative and visually striking cars of the era. The 1965 Chevrolet Chevy 2 Nova sedan serves as a reminder of the importance of design, even in the most practical segments of the market. While functionality and affordability are critical, they don't have to come at the expense of style. By failing to give the Nova a more distinctive look, Chevrolet limited the car's appeal and ensured that it would be remembered more for its utility than for its contribution to automotive design. In conclusion, the 1965 Chevrolet Chevy 2 Nova sedan was a car that met the needs of its time but failed to inspire. Its boxy shape, oversized greenhouse, and lack of character made it a functional but forgettable choice in a market that was beginning to demand more from compact cars. As we reflect on the Nova's design, we're reminded of the value of balance, how even the most practical cars benefit from a touch of style and a sense of personality. Number 2, 1965 Ford Galaxy 500 sedan, a car that, despite its name suggesting grandeur, struggled to live up to expectations. While the Galaxy line was Ford's flagship full-size offering, the base sedan model failed to capture the refinement and elegance that buyers in the market for a full-size car expected during the mid-1960s. By 1965, the full-size sedan market was fiercely competitive. Buyers had an array of options, ranging from Chevrolet's Impala to Chrysler's Newport, each offering distinctive styling, ample space, and modern amenities. Full-size sedans were expected to be more than just practical transportation. They were statements of style and status. The Galaxy 500 name carried weight, being associated with power and prestige, especially in sportier variants and high-performance trims. However, the base sedan didn't share the same appeal. Ford's focus on cost-cutting and broad market appeal left the entry-level Galaxy feeling bland and uninspired compared to its rivals. One of the most significant shortcomings of the 1965 Galaxy 500 sedan was its slab-sided design. While clean, simple lines can sometimes evoke timeless elegance, in this case, the lack of visual interest made the car feel uninspired. The body panels were flat and unadorned, with only minimal chrome trim to break up the monotony. Unlike the sculpted and flowing lines seen on competitors like the Chevrolet Impala or the Pontiac Bonneville, the Galaxy 500's design felt static and utilitarian. The car's simplicity might have been practical, but it lacked the charm and dynamism that buyers expected in the full-size segment. This was especially problematic in an era when cars were as much about making a statement as they were about transportation. Another design flaw of the 1965 Galaxy 500 sedan was its roofline. While Ford had successfully experimented with lower, sleeker roof profiles in some of its other models, the base sedan was saddled with a high, upright roofline. This design choice gave the car an unbalanced look, with the tall greenhouse making the overall proportions feel top-heavy. In an era when automakers were pushing for a lower, more streamlined aesthetic, the Galaxy 500 sedan's roofline felt like a step backward. The high roofline also created an impression of bulkiness, which further detracted from the car's visual appeal. While it may have offered a practical advantage in terms of interior headroom, it came at the expense of the sleek, aspirational design buyers wanted. What truly doomed the 1965 Galaxy 500 sedan, from a design perspective, was its lack of distinctive features. Cars in the full-size market often included signature elements, bold grilles, sweeping side profiles, or intricate taillight designs to set them apart. The Galaxy 500 sedan, however, had none of these. Its grille was a simple horizontal design with minimal ornamentation, and its taillights, though functional, didn't leave a lasting impression. The overall effect was that the car blended into the background, lacking the personality or flair to draw attention. This anonymity was particularly damaging in a segment where buyers were often looking for cars that could turn heads and project status. When compared to its peers, the Galaxy 500 sedan's shortcomings become even more apparent. Chevrolet's Impala, for example, offered graceful curves, intricate trim details, and a lower, sportier profile. Similarly, Chrysler's Newport managed to combine bold styling with a sense of refinement. Even within Ford's own lineup, higher trims of the Galaxy, such as the LTD, featured more luxurious touches and refined styling that made the base sedan feel even more lackluster by comparison. To its credit, the 1965 Ford Galaxy 500 sedan was a functional and reliable car. It offered a spacious interior, decent ride quality, and a range of engine options, from an economical inline-six to more powerful V8s. These attributes made it a practical choice for families and budget-conscious buyers. However, practicality alone wasn't enough to succeed in the full-size market. Buyers in this segment wanted a car that could combine functionality with style, and the Galaxy 500 sedan simply didn't deliver on the latter. The 1965 Ford Galaxy 500 sedan serves as a reminder of the importance of design in the automotive industry. While functionality and affordability are critical, they must be paired with a sense of style and personality to create a truly successful product. Ford's decision to prioritize simplicity and cost savings with the base Galaxy may have made sense in the short term, but it ultimately left the car struggling to compete against more distinctive and aspirational rivals. In conclusion, the 1965 Ford Galaxy 500 sedan was a car that fulfilled its role as a practical, full-size sedan, but failed to stand out in a crowded and competitive market. Number 1, 1965 Mercury Park Lane Convertible, a vehicle that aimed to embody luxury and freedom, but ultimately struggled with a design that fell short of its lofty aspirations. While convertibles have always been celebrated for their stylish aesthetics and open-air driving experience, the Park Lane's execution left much to be desired. In the mid-1960s, the American automotive market was experiencing a surge in demand for stylish convertibles. Manufacturers were racing to capture the attention of buyers who sought both performance and aesthetics. Mercury, positioned as Ford's mid-tier luxury brand, needed to offer something special to compete with more established rivals like Cadillac and Lincoln. The Park Lane convertible was intended to blend luxury with sporty flair, but by 1965, its design choices would ultimately hinder its success. One of the most notable flaws of the 1965 Mercury Park Lane convertible was its oversized, blocky design. While the intention may have been to create a bold presence on the road, the execution came off as ungainly, particularly with the top down. The convertible body appeared heavy and cumbersome, with broad side panels and a tall roofline that did little to enhance its sporty appeal. Instead of the graceful lines one would expect from a convertible, the Park Lane presented an awkward silhouette, making it look less like a sleek touring vehicle and more like a lumbering giant. In an era where other brands were refining their designs to achieve a more aerodynamic and elegant look, the Park Lane's blockiness made it feel outdated and out of step with contemporary tastes. Adding to the Park Lane's design woes was its heavy use of chrome trim. While chrome can enhance the luxury appeal of a vehicle, the wide, garish chrome accents on the Park Lane felt excessive and out of place. Rather than complementing the overall design, the excessive chrome served to draw attention to the car's bulkiness, further emphasizing its less than flattering proportions. Instead of creating a cohesive and elegant look, the blingy trim made the convertible feel overdone and gaudy, detracting from any sense of sophistication. While chrome details can be used effectively in moderation, the Park Lane's styling missed the mark by piling it on without thoughtful integration into the design. Another issue with the 1965 Park Lane convertible was its lack of streamlined features. During this period, the trend was moving towards more refined designs with clean lines and a sense of motion. However, the Park Lane felt stagnant and clunky. Elements like the square grille and chunky headlight arrangement contributed to a sense of boxiness, which contrasted sharply with the more fluid shapes found in competing models. The lack of attention to detail in the design left the Park Lane feeling unfinished and unrefined. Instead of showcasing the elegance typically associated with convertibles, the Park Lane appeared more like an afterthought in Mercury's lineup. When we compare the 1965 Mercury Park Lane convertible to its competitors, the flaws in its design become even more apparent. Cars like the Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Impala offered sweeping curves and dynamic lines that evoked a sense of speed and excitement. Cadillac's convertibles from the same era embraced a more streamlined approach, incorporating luxurious touches without overdoing the chrome or bulkiness. The contrast is stark. While competitors embraced the aesthetics of the time, the Park Lane felt mired in a design philosophy that was rapidly becoming obsolete. While the design of the Park Lane convertible faltered, it's important to recognize that it still had some redeeming qualities. The vehicle offered a spacious interior with comfortable seating and a smooth ride, which were essential for a convertible aimed at the luxury market. However, even these practical elements couldn't outweigh the visual shortcomings. A convertible's charm lies in its ability to make an impression, and the Park Lane's bulky design and excessive chrome compromised its ability to do just that. The 1965 Mercury Park Lane convertible serves as an important lesson in automotive design. Aesthetics matter. While practicality and comfort are crucial, they must be balanced with a sense of style and elegance. In the case of the Park Lane, the failure to strike that balance resulted in a car that was ultimately forgettable in a vibrant market. As we reflect on the Park Lane convertible's design issues, we see how crucial it is for automakers to adapt to changing tastes and trends. Cars are not just machines. They are expressions of culture and style, and failing to recognize that can lead to missed opportunities in the marketplace. In conclusion, the 1965 Mercury Park Lane convertible attempted to capture the essence of luxury and open-air driving, but its oversized, blocky look and excessive chrome trim held it back.